Hey guys, it's Katie, and I'm here today to do the hopeful book tag. I was tagged by Shelby from Read and Find Out, I swear to God, so many months ago. I lost count of how long ago it's been. But I kind of wanted to wait to do this until kind of around now for a lot of reasons. But I figured that, after the day that I've had today, because it's been a day, that I would film this. And let's just jump right on in. Number one, a book you would like to escape to. Okay, so I read a ton of fantasy and I want to escape to so many different places in so many of the books that I read because they're just all so wonderful and fantastical in their own way. But I'm probably going to say the Shire, that specific part of Middle Earth, because it's happy, it's fun, it's got my people there, and it would just be a really great time. It's just such a wonderful place. The Shire is full of great food, great company, lovely stories, just happy times. They live in their own kind of little bubble in the countryside, but they've got some woodsy areas and really lovely houses. And I just love that they're a sustainable community and just how close they are with each other. It's just my ideal place, honestly. So I definitely want to go to the Shire. Number two, a romance that left you all mushy inside. So for those of you guys who don't know, I am hardcore shipper here, right? Okay. But a lot of my ships are they've got some angsty stuff going on up in their lives, but they just leave me mushy anyway, despite all of their angstiness, because I live and breathe for angsty things. It's a thing. But let me sit back and think of romantic relationships that make me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. I don't want to spoil you for some of the relationships either, because, when you read the book, you don't necessarily know that they're gonna get together. So I hesitate to say that any of the things. But I guess one relationship that is, semi-spoilery, but everyone knows that it's a thing, is and also just fits all of the criteria of making me feel happy and like I can die inside from joy, are Zimbits. So Jack Zimmerman and Eric Biddle from OMG Check Please. Just they are the cutest couple ever. Okay, just let me explain to you their lives. So Eric Biddle is our main protagonist, and he is a young gay baking vlogger who goes off to college, and he is just kind of trying to come to terms with his life and trying to fit in and whatnot. Before he went to college, he was very, very into the figure skating scene, but the college that he goes to does not have a figure skating scene, but he wants to keep skating anyway, so he decides to join the hockey team. And when he does that, he kind of questions his whole life, because he is absolutely 125% terrified of being checked or basically body slammed and shoved into all kinds of railings and walls and things. Basically, the captain of the hockey team is named Jack Zimmerman. Jack Zimmerman is a really, really well-known figure because his father is a famous hockey player and hockey coach, and he feels like he has to live up to his father's expectations, and so he's a little bit rough around the edges at first. And him and Biddle meet and don't hit it off. They do not hit it off at first, but they've got a wonderful cast of characters surrounding themselves. Just they're all so lovely and so wonderful, and it's just all about Jack and Biddy kind of finding themselves amidst all of these pressures and dealing with college and everything. and ultimately finding their way to each other. And Biddy does that through his personality and through his baking, because let's be honest, literally everyone and their mother lives for Biddy's pies. Okay, glad we had that little chat. But then once you get to know Jack as well, he's just such a sweetheart. He has a heart of gold, and he's just a soft bisexual baby who needs to be loved and comforted forever. So their relationship and their story, and just that story in general, is one of the purest and happiest things I have ever read about. And I haven't read anything that makes me scream with joy in like the best, happiest, warmest possible way in a very long time. And I don't think even since then. I mean, of course, we all know that I adored, couples like Fitz and the Fool and Harry Cedric and Neville Draco, because they're all my bookish ships and stuff. But the thing is they've all got like these mega angsty things, and they don't necessarily make me feel mush inside and feel joy and whatnot. So, just Zimbits is my pure, happy, gay baby couple, and I live and breathe for them. Number 3, a friendship we should all aspire to have. Let's think. That's a good question. There are quite a few I can think of. I already talked about Lord of the Rings, so that's out, but that's full of a lot of great, epic, gorgeous, wonderful friendships. And I've heard others talked about, but I haven't actually experienced them myself, so I don't want to talk about them yet either. So I might just say you should aspire to have a friendship like Night Eyes and Fitz. And I know we're off talking about the Realm of the Elderlings in tags, but I'm sorry, but Fitz and Night Eyes friendship, relationship, whatever you want to call it, is one of my favorite things in the entire world. For those of you who don't know and haven't read the series, and this might be a tiny bit spoilery, maybe, but those of you who don't know, Fitz is our main protagonist in the Farseer trilogy, the Tawny Men trilogy, and the Fitz and the Fool trilogy. All of them are told in first person from his point of view, except for parts of the Fitz and the Fool trilogy. But that's, a story for another time. If you haven't, go watch all of my ROTE videos and you'll maybe learn a little bit more about that. Probably not, because I try to avoid spoilers for you guys. But Fitz has several different magical abilities, and one of them is called the Wit. And basically what the Wit is it's the ability to bond in many, many different ways with an animal. And you kind of have to have like a special connection with the animal. Like you can kind of communicate with all of them in some way, shape, or form. But there's one animal that you tend to kind of bond with above all others. And Night Eyes isn't introduced until, he's introduced in one of the earlier books, but not until later in the first trilogy, if you get my meaning. But Night Eyes is a wolf, and him and Fitz ultimately form this beautiful wit bond. And Night Eyes is the sassiest, snarkiest wolf you will ever meet, and I adore him. Okay, there are so many wonderful, quotable moments between them, and I just absolutely love their relationship and getting to see them bond. They will do everything they can for each other, whether it's a self-sacrificing kind of a situation or not. Like, they are so incredibly important to each other. They don't go anywhere without each other. At one point, they decided to have this kind of self-inflicted separation, and it was so difficult for them. They couldn't pull it off, really. And just everything about them. Even in the later books, just everything about them and their friendship is just stunningly gorgeous. And I just, honestly, goals forever. I don't care that it's an animal companion. Sometimes I prefer animals to people. That whole reading experience was just one of my favorite aspects of the books. And, you know, that's saying something because I liked so many things about those books. But Fitz and Night Eye's friendship, relationship thing is just stunningly done, and everything that I aspire to have in a friend of any species. Number 4, intermission. Insert the cutest picture of your pet or the cutest animal picture you can find. So, I mean, I will put up something of Sasha here, whether it's video footage, but probably not. She's hard to catch on film because she moves that fast. So enjoy this little slideshow of adorable Sasha pictures coming up after this clip. Character in a leadership role that inspires you. This one is kind of tricky as well because there are a lot of leadership role characters that I enjoy, but one that I really enjoy is Jake from the Animorphs series. Jake is one of those characters who just at the beginning of the series, he's kind of thrust into this leadership role and he didn't necessarily want it. You know, everyone in that team has their own special role kind of a thing. And they bestow the leadership role on Jake because he's good at making decisions, he's very level-headed, and he's just kind of able to deal with everything amidst the chaos of this mess. It kind of helps that he has a really high-powered mind-controlling alien called a Yeerk in his household because his brother is being controlled by one of them and is a pretty high-ranking Yeerk at that. So Jake kind of gets thrust into this leadership role in so many ways. And then when this other alien comes to join them, he keeps calling him Prince Jake, and it's just, Jake really gets thrown into this role that he didn't even want in the first place. And it's not until the later books that he really kind of accepts that role that has been thrust upon him, because he knows, you know, he's been doing it for so long and he knows kind of how to go about things in a very tactical way. Like he's kind of like an army general in a way. He tells people what to do and they, you know, carry out his orders and whatnot, just despite having, you know, this role thrust upon him and him accepting it and all of this stuff. We also get to see him with all of these internal struggles that he deals with as the books go on and as they become darker and as things just get more complicated. And we get to see him deal with the struggles of what he went through during this war and kind of the aftermath, and just kind of him getting thrust into another kind of exciting adventure / warlike situation, and just how he really just can't divorce himself from that anymore. And just watching actually all of the Animorphs kind of deal with the aftermath of what happened to them during that war, it was just really a lot to watch and really kind of heartbreaking and awful. But we really get to see it with Jake, in some ways more so than the others. And, you know, it's interesting because, you know, this was something he never really wanted and something that he just was thrust into. And I feel like that's similar to some things that we experience in life, because we sometimes go through things that we don't want to go through. Like might be designated leader on a group project or something, but we all take on a leadership role in some facet, whether we want to or not. And seeing Jake thrust into that role and not want to be that at first, but then ultimately grow into it and deal with all of the things that come his way, as well as all of the potentially horrible aftermaths, ultimately, like, just, it's something that I really admire, because, you know, we are thrust into situations and might not want to be there, but we have to ultimately step up and do what we need to do in order to get the job done, kind of a thing. It's difficult to explain, but I hope that made sense. 6, recommend 3 books that fill you with hope. So I can't talk about this question without talking about The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien, because that is the book that is kind of the epitome of hope. And I know I talked about, you know, Middle Earth as a general thing earlier in the video, but honestly, The Lord of the Rings is a very, very hopeful book, because all of this destruction and anger and pain and loss that all of these characters and people have gone through throughout the book, but also prior to the book, and also in some ways post the book, it shows that there's always hope. No matter how bad it gets, there is always hope for something getting better. And honestly, just, those books speak to me in such a way, but also just knowing Tolkien's life. And I'm going to link my discussion video on him up above if you haven't seen it. But just knowing his life and what he went through, and ultimately what he poured into his books, it just really gives you a deeper insight into not only the man, but also into the world that he created. Like, he created The Lord of the Rings for a reason. It was his escape from all of the horrors that he experienced during World War I. Because not only did he watch almost all of his friends die, he watched so many of the horses he trained get killed. He watched all of this destruction going on around him, and then he himself suffered greatly post-war. I believe he had severe PTSD, like a lot of people did. Like A.A. Milne also had severe PTSD, and he created Winnie the Pooh as, you know, his own personal escape. And I guess that's another hopeful book to talk about, a hopeful series to talk about. So The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien is 125% a hopeful book to me. Another is the Winnie the Pooh collection by A.A. Milne, because it's a similar thing. A whimsy and a happy, you know, getaway with all of these wonderful woodland creatures and all of those things. Whether you want to assign several different, you know, personifications to them, because there are so many different analyses of the characters in there. But, you know, honestly, just looking at it on its face, not looking into any deeper meaning or anything, it's just a fun, whimsical, you know, cute children's story that is full of hope and gladness and just purity, you know, escaping from a difficult time. Because, you know, those books do have a little bit of a deeper thread running through it, with all of the hardships that each of the characters face with their insecurities or their feelings on something. It's very, very interesting to portray and see. And I just love how you can just read both of those books as kind of an escape, and just see that there is better in the world than you know, we see. The last book that I'm going to talk about is actually, is kind of one that I'm a little bit surprised that I'm mentioning. But it's the Winter Night Trilogy by Catherine Arden. And the reason that I'm bringing this one up is because, you know, this is something that actually happened. Like, it's a historical fantasy. And the historical part actually happened. It's kind of all about the war between Christianity, the burgeoning Christianity, and the old ways of paganism and believing in all of these spirits and kinds of things. And just kind of right on that cusp of it changing over, or those tensions between the old ways and the new ways, told in a fantastical way through lots of fun and interesting characters, etc. But ultimately, and spoilers, so close your ears if you don't want to hear, but ultimately those two religions were able to coexist with each other. They had kind of a dual religious society thing going on for a little bit of time. And in some ways, I'm pretty sure it's kind of still present. Like, the people believe in the house spirits and all of the spirits and things, but they're also able to believe in Christianity and kind of form this coexisting peace for, a time. And I mean, you look around today and you see all of these tensions throughout the world that are, were caused by people believing in different things, or people having different ideals or different morals and values than you do. And it causes these horrible tensions, trying to constantly make people believe or think in a certain way that you do. And reading Winter Night, it really makes you look at it in a different way, and you can see that these two differing things are able to coexist with each other, and they were able to coexist with each other for quite a long time. And it's something I think that we should all strive for in this world. No matter what our beliefs and our values, there are ways that we can coexist with each other. And books like that and endings like that bring me hope that that can happen one day. Then the last question is number 7, which is optional, and that's to tag some people. I'm not sure I know who's done this, so I'm gonna look around in my subscribers and kind of see if who's done this and who hasn't, and then I'll probably just tag a bunch of people down below, and on Twitter, so keep an eye out for that. But other than that, that's about all I've got for you today. So as always, you guys know the drill. I've got both my social media links down below in the description. I've got a Twitter, which is @AsiaTomes, which is the same as my handle here. And I've also got my Goodreads page linked down below, so you can come check out my progress and see what I'm reading before I come scream about it over here in some fashion or other. And I will catch you later with another video for you soon. Bye!